Alright y'all, welcome back to the channel and to some more buckshot testing, and today we've got a head-to-head comparison between two different chokes that a ton of you guys have been wanting to see. So here we are, we're finally going to run it and see what the difference actually is side by side, if there's a clear winner or not, at least with the shells we're starting with. I definitely plan on doing more of these head-to-heads between these two chokes with some other popular loadings as well to kind of build a little bit of a database as to generally how each one actually performs when compared to the other. But we should see some pretty nice results here today overall, since both of these have proven themselves to be a pretty nice performing choke, especially if you find a good solid performing shell to run through them as well. So for our two contenders today, we've got these two, a Kicks Buck Kicker Full and a Trulock Boar Blaster. Ton of people have wanted to see the Kicks and the Trulock compared side by side. We know both of these have the potential to give some fantastic patterns, but people wanted to see the comparison directly side by side. As for what the difference really is, there is a little bit different design and constriction between both of these. The Kicks is a 693 for a constriction, and it is ported, but it has no steps or anything like that inside. The Trulock is a 700 constriction, so a little bit less choke overall, but this is non-ported and it does have steps inside of the choke. So two little bit different designs here. Both are very capable, but we'll see how they do head to head with the load we're starting with. That being some of these classic Remington Express buckshot loads, these ones being the 12 gauge 2 3/4 inch 9 pellet load of double-aught at 1325. Remington has stepped up their game here recently over the last couple of years with the Express line of buck. They used to kind of be pretty middle of the road, but they've really made some steps to get them to pattern a lot better. We know these can do it, and it's been a while since we brought a Remington buckshot load out, so we'll start here and see what we get at least to start off with. And of course we can move to different shells from here. And for the shotgun we're running, I brought out my Remington 870 special purpose, 26-inch barrel on it, and it has proven to be a pretty consistent buckshot performing combination, so we should have a good setup here today as well. As for our test, we're going to run it the same as we typically do with buckshot. I've got two targets set up side by side at 40 yards with the chrono and templates as well that we can lay up over our results so we can really see the difference between them. So we'll get you guys a view of those targets. We'll start with the Kicks, then we'll move to the Trulock, put them both side by side and see how they actually perform. So let's start with throwing the Kicks in the gun, then we'll move to the Trulock and see how they both compare. Alright, so as for our chronograph velocities for both of those shells, boss claim is 1325. We have a 26-inch barrel with a little bit of choke out of the end, so we didn't quite see 1325, but we weren't very far off. The shot with the Kicks choke gave us 1302, and the shot with the Trulock gave us 1313. So pretty consistent, low 1300s, not very far off from their boss claim, and not much velocity difference here between each of the chokes. Definitely nothing major, that's for sure. But what kind of patterns did we get out of them to start off with the Remington loads? Let's go check it out and see. Okay, well, here we have our two patterns side by side, and not exactly the results I was expecting out of either one of them, really. And remember earlier how I said Remington has made strides to really improve their buckshot patterns. We've seen that be the case on many occasions. These two here, not really the best showing for either one of these chokes. But this is just one shell through each of these chokes. We're going to run some Federals through it. We're going to run some Remingtons through it and stuff like that. Still comparing these two and seeing what they can do, because these Remingtons may be a little more shell limited than choke limited. However, I do think we still have a pretty decent obvious winner. On the left, we have our Kicks Buck Kicker Full. On the right is the Trulock Boar Blaster. Two way different patterns overall, so they definitely made some sort of a difference from one another with these particular Remington loads anyway. Starting on the left, we have our Kicks Buck Kicker Full. It's a 693 constriction. We've got all 9 pellets on the target here. did favor a little to the right and a little bit high, but I mean, we saw that the Trulock choke was pretty centered up. I have a ton of shots behind that 870, so I know where it usually impacts. Perfect example on why you test with the combo you want to run, because different chokes will impact in different locations. But all 9 pellets here, and it's not an overly impressive looking pattern. The overall size of it isn't that bad, but it is just kind of pellets here, there, and everywhere throughout the pattern. I did measure. We have 16.5 inches tall by 9 inches wide, but the farthest 2 pellets across are 17 inches, that being that very top pellet to that bottom right hand corner pellet down there. So the overall size of the pattern isn't too bad. Generally, anything below 20 inches at 40 is a decent performing combination, and once you get down below 15, then you're really starting to do something. We're not terribly far off from that as far as overall size goes, but we don't have any sort of really condensed area of pellets with a few around the edges or nothing like that. So not bad size, but not the prettiest pattern, although I do think this is probably the better pattern. Because now when we move over and compare that to the Trulock Boar Blaster, it's a little less constriction at 700. It's non-ported and it has steps in it as well. We see a pretty different spread of pellets. Right around the white dot, we had a nice little clump of them down there at the bottom left corner of it. But other than that, we've got 2 strung up high right, we've got 1 low right, and 2 more kind of bottom left over there. Big string across diagonal with a few flyers top and bottom. Definitely not the kind of pattern I'm looking for. Same measurements on here that I took. We're at 18 inches tall by 22.5 inches wide, but the farthest 2 pellets across are 29.5 inches, and that is diagonal from the bottom left pellet all the way up to the top right pellet. So way different spread, way more open. I don't love stringy buckshot patterns. So overall, I do think the kicks over there on the left is the better pattern for today's test anyway. Although neither of them is anything overly impressive necessarily. But we'll throw a couple templates up and really see the difference between the two of them, because I think both of them would still do the job in the vast majority of situations. First up, we have a deer template. This is our kicks choke. If we line it up with about where our point of aim was, we still would have had a decent pellet count kind of right through the shoulder and vitals area there. So that can absolutely do the job on a deer hunt. It's not the prettiest pattern we've seen, but you've got plenty of them right through where you need them to be at. So it would indeed do the job. Now moving that over to our Trulock pattern. Same story, dead deer, yes, you've got a clump of them kind of right down in the heart area that would have absolutely done the job, but pretty sparse otherwise. It's because we have a big string for a pattern essentially. So I still think I would prefer the kicks over what the Trulock gave us, at least for deer hunting purpose. But now, as for our coyote template, we're back on the kicks choke. Yet again, still would make for a very bad day on a predator, and I still think this is going to be the preferred choke option for today's test for predator purposes. If you happen to have a shot at one when you're out deer hunting or something like that, and just happen to have this combination of shell and choke. And that trend continues, moving it to our Trulock pattern. Same story as the deer. Dead coyote, yes, but I really don't like the stringiness in it, especially for a little smaller body size animals. You may clip them with a couple like we see down there in the center, and then send the rest kind of just here, there, and everywhere. So still, the kicks is the better performer between these two. And finally, we have a torso cutout. We're not trying to say that this is a 40-yard home defense type of scenario or something like that, but this will give the more tactical guys a little better reference than an animal cutout if they may not be hunters. Now for this, I'm definitely going to favor the template to give our pattern best case scenario. With the kicks choke, we've got 8 of the 9 pellets within the torso cutout. This is regulation 18 by 30, so that's what it would look like on a 2-legged creature sized area at 40 yards. Which is still going to be the better performer overall, I believe. And moving that over to our Trulock, we see 6 of the 9 pellets that would have hit the torso cutout. You've got a nice little clump of them right in the center, but other than that, the really stringiness of the pattern gets you for sure. So still, I think the kicks is the better option with these Remington double out loads anyway, for today's test. And here are the two wads out of those shells. Like I mentioned earlier, this is one of the things that Remington has put into their buckshot loads that has actually made a noticeable difference, is putting these wads in there compared to what they used to be. On the left, you have the one that came from the Kicks buck kicker choke. That's a little tighter constriction with porting, which you can definitely tell down there on the bottom skirt of it. Porting typically does this little straggly stuff to wads. On the right, that's the Trulock Boar Blaster choke shot. Little less constriction at 700 and no porting or anything. So a little bit of difference in the wad, how they look after they flew down range. But overall, both of them did kind of what I would expect out of them. No major damage or nothing I'm concerned with here on the wads. So nothing out of the normal to consider here. All right, well, what do we think about these two results right here? Coming into it, I kind of expected a little bit better. I didn't know which one was going to win necessarily compared to the other, but I thought we'd see a little bit more condensed or concise areas of shot down here. We kind of sort of got into the range of that over here with the Kicks choke. That is a perfectly adequate performing pattern, although definitely not nearly the best pattern we've seen from that choke or out of these shells as well. So it's perfectly fine, but it's just nothing super special to write home about either. It would do the job for the vast majority of situations, but nothing super special. But compare that now to what the Trulock gave us, that I really didn't expect. Usually, even if that choke doesn't give us the tightest spreads of pellets, they're usually pretty even throughout most of the pattern. Not exactly what we saw there. We had the start of a good little clump down here with our core area, and then we just kind of threw things just a little bit everywhere. So that leads the Kicks to be the winner between these two shots today. Now, of course, it's two shots with one Remington loading, and that Remington load may not be as good as some other shells that are on the same store shelf, but we had to start somewhere, and we've got plenty more shells we can move to from here comparing these two chokes head to head. I definitely plan on running a few different Federal loads like power shocks, copper plated, maybe even some flight control loads through them and see what happens. We can get some Winchester Super X and Double X out here and see what happens there as well. So we've got other options for sure that we will absolutely be testing. But let me know all your thoughts down below. Is this about what you expected to see? Were you a little surprised one way or the other? Have you tested either one of these chokes? And if so, what kind of results have you seen from them? Are either one of these a combination you would actually use? And if so, which one do you prefer? Do you like the little clump of pellets in the core with the Trulock, or do you prefer the little more even condensed area that you got with the Kicks? And what other shells do you really want to see us run through both of these chokes head to head? Let me know all that down below. But with that being said, I've got some more testing to get done for you guys, so I'm going to get back to it. As always, we have the channel Instagram as well as the mailbox where you can send stuff if you'd like. All that information will be in the description if you're interested in it. But I'm going to get back to it, so I'll see you all in the next one.